Oh no, it's a bit oily blue tack. I wouldn't probably use blue tack. Okay, so fold them over like so. Okay, put one each end of the things. Make sure they're not sticking out over the side. So whack one there. See mine sticking over the side there. Put a piece in there like that. Okay, put another piece. Fold it over like so. Whack one at the other end. One at each end will do. Because what's going to happen with that now? It's not hard to guess what's going to happen with that now. We've got to apply this to our job. Okay, so where we did our tracing, place that over the top like so. Okay. That's the plan. So we're doing our background, right? So let's get our other cloud done the same way. Put some things on the back of it. Put some tape on the back and stick that one on as well. Right? Let's do that now. Remember, we're doing the sky. The very far background is what we're going to be firstly painting. So grab our big mountain. He also needs to be prepared for the job as well. Put our cloud, second cloud over the area there. Try and keep it within the area if you can. I mean, once we get hooking into it, you're not going to notice those lines that have been left from the tracing, but it's always handy. So let's get our mountain happening. Stick him. Okay, so we've got our two mountains down. Our one mountain down, our two clouds, and of course, we need to put our sun down as well. Put him down just so the bottom of it's just going on the other side of the horizon there, so we don't get a line through there when we're doing our regular stuff. Okay. Once you've done that, you will need your other piece of 2-inch or whatever paper, and of course, it's very important. This is your horizon, so we've got to place that on the horizon, just above the line if you can. Right? Making sure you cover the bottom of that sun, very important. Otherwise, you're going to get a gap through there. Right? Stick that on like so. Right? So we're doing our sky. So here we go. We're ready to do the sky. That's simple, right? So we're ready to rock and roll. Okay. So now, what we do, of course, is we take our. I will use the hard graphite stick, or if all you have is your lead, I would suggest you use the HPs and the H sections, or any H1, H2, and even anywhere up to 9 for the background. And if this is all you have as leads, I would be using the Bs, a bit of lead. That's like 2B, 3B, 4B, because we want to create the two different tones, of course. The two different tones of pencils, as you can see. Can all be done with the 1, 2. So if that's all you've got, go for it. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. Okay, so here's where the magic begins, guys. And I like to start with the sun. I like to start by scraping a bit around the sun there, just onto the sun itself, because that way I can spread it out. You see there, I've got very little amount on there, very little. I'm getting a bit closer there. You can see what I'm doing. You don't need much at all. And with the sun, I'll sort of go in circular motions just around that sun, like so, just to spread it out a bit. Okay, just to give it an image of a glow. That little mark there, by the way, I've obviously been talking and a little bit of spit has probably gone onto the page. Be very careful of that sort of thing. You can ruin your drawing. I'll just ruin mine, but never mind. So, as you can see, once we've done that, if you have a look under there, now be gentle on the edges with your fingers, because you don't want to go underneath too much. You see that? That's the magic. That's the magic of the stencils. As you can see, no pencil lines at all. Okay, so I'm putting that back now. So now, just not too much here. We don't want this too heavy. So just like a snowflake kind of situation, move your stick around as you apply it, and there we go. That's enough. You can see there's not a lot on there. Now, very gently. Very important that you keep these cross strokes going with your finger. If you start going up and down, you will lose that water effect. Okay? So you've got to make it look like it's like ripples on the ocean type of thing. So going nice and gentle. You don't even have to press hard. Leave some nice wide areas, exactly, right? Just see how I'm just sort of flicking it on there. I'm not rubbing in hard. There'll be times for rubbing hard, okay? So just very gently get that sort of thing happening, okay? There you can see, got a bit of a sky. If you want to go in a bit heavier around the mountain, feel free, or on the edge of your page there. Very important. Okay, so you've done the bottom half. Now do the top half. If you want a different shaded sky, feel free to use a darker one. I don't want to risk that yet though, so I'm just going to, once again, flick a few more little bits and pieces up the top there. As you can see, there's not a great deal of it. And then I'm just going to rub it in very gently, just being particularly around the clouds. I'll probably get my finger in tight in around the clouds. Just notice that? I've gone in really tight, but still keeping that forward and back and forward, kind of back and forward direction thing going on. Never up and down. Be careful because you will be tempted to do that when you're concentrating too hard, right? So there we go. See that peeking up on the end. Be very careful. On the ends, very careful. You've got to really hook into those little ends or you'll lose those. You won't see them. So it's all about contrast, right? So there we go, guys. Believe it or not, we have done the top section of our painting. Okay, so if you take that off now, okay, I'd leave the bottom one on because we're about to do the bottom, okay? Leave that there for now, just for now. And if you take your clouds out, you can see where you've done your cloud. See that? Look at that. Okay. It almost looks real, doesn't it? That's the whole idea. Careful lifting up your paper. You don't want to tear your paper with. So there we go. Look at those clouds, guys. Huh? Now, in order for a little bit more definition on the clouds, grab yourself, let's use a piece of paper. Grab another piece of paper on its own, like so, and just tear a little half circle-y kind of thing in the paper. Right? Something like that. Just tear something out there, and just like you see this cloud coming in here, you might want a little bit of definition coming in onto the cloud itself. So I'll just place that on there like so, on the edge of the cloud. Try and get that down closer for you so you can see what. Right, get that in close, and then just with your finger, which would already have a lot of charcoal on there, I would do that sort of thing. You see that? Gives you a little bit of definition coming in off the cloud, so it's not looking too fake or artificial. Once again, do the same here. What? See what I mean, guys? Don't have to do it on all of them. A couple of them here and there. One here, maybe. You see that now? That's starting to look like it's got a little bit more definition. You might want to do a couple of long ones along the front there. So just use your fingers, or if you want, you can just put the lead right on the edge of the stencil, but not on the actual job, and then that'll run in for you. Okay? So you get that sort of thing out. See? And that's how you would do your clouds. Okay? So get your clouds organised, and we'll move on from there. Do it on that one as well, of course. Here, guys, just here. Very simple. Nice finish there. Now that's looking quite natural. So now, guys, we're looking at our big mountain. Okay. So of course we need to lift up our male template that we've had there holding position for us. Lift him up. He's the next one in the journey forward. Okay. So background, clouds. I'd leave my sun in there till the end because all the smudging that's going on, you may get too much stuff in there all over it. Okay. So leave that like now. Remember our old female template? Looking a bit tattered. It should be looking a bit rough. That's all right. You grab him, because what we've got to do is if we're doing our big mountain, which is here, we got to cover up the outside of him now. Okay, so that's really important. So with him, once again, put a couple of bits of paper folded over onto the back of him, one on the end. Okay, maybe one a bit further up. Okay. Like so. You know, one about here, one about there, and maybe one or two on the other side, just to hold him down, okay? One on here, let's grab another piece of stuff. Okay. One on here. Wonderful. Now, it's tricky because he's a bit floppy, so you've got to sort of work with him a little bit. So start by sticking down maybe your top one, because that's our important one, right? Using as a guide here your outline of your, see the guide by the edge of your things. Bring it in, just get in a position. Now, being sure to kind of go a little bit on the other side. You see where we finish off? We don't want to go inside that, otherwise we'll get a white line. So we need to go, I don't even care if you come a fair bit over, it doesn't matter. As long as you're on the other side of that line, or even if slightly is good, but if you can't do slightly, just do it somehow. Now follow it down the bottom also, try and follow the same routine. Pull that one in like so. So there we go, that one's ready to go, guys. Okay, that's ready to go for a big one. So for this one, of course, we're going to need our heavier stick or our B-type lead. Okay, so I like to just sort of give it a general cover. I like to go in pretty hard on the edges with this sort of thing, but give it a general cover. Okay, like so, general cover. And if you really want to get heavy on the edges, like I suggested before, run the actual thing along the edge of the template. That way you can get it nice, solid. Now with the mountains, there's no need to just follow one direction here. You can go up and down and around or whatever you need to do, as long as you get a general cover. Now I still encourage the light and dark stuff. I wouldn't get a completely one color. Use a little bit of, now see again, I'm using a lot of attention on the edges there. Okay, a lot of attention on the edges. Right, feeling the centerpiece. See, we've got a nice bit of difference going on there now. Try and get rid of all the chalk, the sort of streaky lines if you can, though. Okay, so there we go. Look at that, guys. We got a nice bit of coverage there for that particular one. Right? Now that's just our basic cover, and of course we're going to use the same technique we used before for doing all the cracks and so forth in the mountain itself. Okay, so give it a good rub, get it all in there. You know, this time you've really got to rub hard. Okay, paying most attention to the edges, being careful those edges don't lift up on you. Create some, a bit of character in the rock itself. You can see here where I've got a couple of little fellas here. Okay, I should have actually put some on this one as well, but we can do that on our one. You see, it just makes it look a little bit three-dimensional and more realistic. So once again, same sort of technique. If you want to grab a piece of paper and just tear kind of a half-rounded section in there, whatever you think you might like, So, just tear it with your hands, and away you go. So I'll put that on there like that. Just hold it there. Give it a bit of a sprinkle with the exterior stuff on the edge of the template, because then I can bring that in. Okay, just like that. Then I'll bring that in right on the edge, and I'll give it a good scrub. Okay, give it a good rub, a little bit thicker. And when you lift that up, of course, you have got another dimension to your rock. Okay, you can see that. It doesn't stop there. You've still got to be a little bit more creative there. So just whatever nice looking jagged edge might look trendy, whack it in there like that on the edge, as though this rock is continuing through. Grab your chalk, just put it on the edge of the outside of the template again. Give that a rub. Rub it in on there like so. And you can see how that's moved that rock area forward into making that look like there's actually two little rocks there. So simple, isn't it? Now, same up here, guys. If you come up to the top section here, and you just sort of run your little edge there, same sort of technique, just coming in off the edge, just add a little bit of, dimension to those little edge pieces as well. See that, guys? Okay, now you can do as much or as little as you like. Careful not to overdo it. Some people do overdo it. Then it starts looking a bit like a circus. But, go mad. Enjoy it. Wherever you think it might need, do it. Just do your rock, get it all done. Okay. So finish off your rock area. So now you notice it's probably a little bit thin through here. You want a good contrasting line there. So another trick is very carefully on the actual job itself, run a little bit of your chalk into there like that, just very thin, and just give that a rub, just to get a bit more definition on that outside region of the rock. Okay. A little bit important because you want to see a bit of contrast there. You do want to see a nice contrast coming in on the edge there, right? It'll all come with practice. So now when you peel it up, you can see how important it was to have that bit of contrast. Okay. The wonderful thing about this kind of drawing is that you can't really make too big a mess, really, because it's all about smudging. So if you happen to smudge something that shouldn't be there, you can always smudge over it. You can take your rubber, rub out a section, re-smudge it in. It's wonderful. It's really quite wonderful, right? So there we go. There we have our big rock, okay? Now, I want you to repeat that same process with our other rocks, right? We've got another little rock over here, as you know. Turn your template upside down again, you will see that little fella, okay, over here like this. So follow the same system, but doing that other rock on this side as well, guys, all right? Follow the same system. So you'll be basically lining up. You see you've got the line here to match up with the edge of your paint, which is really good. Just let the template find its way naturally. Okay, making sure this line here is nice and straight. You don't want that kind of coming in like this or like that. It'll look very unnatural. But your little lines on there from your tracing underneath should let you know where you are. So get that one done too, guys, and we'll move on from there. Okay, guys, seems we're doing well. Looking good. We've got our second little rock there. And like I said, you can now see the reason why we had these pieces of paper on the side, so they'll get a nice finish there. But we'll be tidying them up even better after. So you can see how you get the nice finish, right? Now, the very foreground, this is the very last application for the foreground. We need to do our water, which is part of the midground, and then our foreground. But we need to prepare our foreground before we do that. And by doing that, as you remember, we've also got little bits of our male and female template for the foreground, all right? It's very hard to tell which is a male and female one here because it's sort of, both do the same job. So, of course, we need to cover the rock area, firstly, and we're doing our water, okay? So, with our tracing underneath, cover it up like so. Make sure we get a couple of little bits of tape down in that area there, okay? Just to keep it nice and steady so it doesn't move around on you too much. All right. Put that on like that. Okay. Now is when we do our water, all right? I'm not going to go too heavy there. Now our water. Now I like to use a lighter one again for the water. Water is very similar again to the water again is very similar to our sky. Okay. Now what we're going to do first before we do that, we need to cover up our horizon again, okay, at the back. So now you notice I was a little bit off kilter on my horizon line there. Not a problem. I'll just rub that line out, completely rub it out. Like I said, you can't make a mistake in this, right? Cut that line out, cover it if there's a line there. Now again, we will need a piece of our paper. And we need to lay that over our horizon now, okay, because we're doing our water. Once again, being careful not to go below the line or we'll lose. Go back over the top of the sky's horizon just on. So, that way, you won't get any light sneaking in under there. All these little details is what make the difference between a good piece of art. And so really, this is really about precision, and it doesn't take a great deal of skill to do something like this. It's just about care and really putting in the extra effort. Right? Oh, you should also take that sun out because you don't want to see that sun leaving light. Try and use your knife if you can to remove things. It saves you putting fingerprints all over the job. I always use a stencil knife when I'm lifting things up. It's getting very reluctant to come up. It doesn't want to come up. Okay, so make sure you remove your sun for that, your template, sun's template. Whacking down your horizon line again, which we decided we're going to go up a little bit. Okay, so there we go, guys. We've got that ready to go. Okay, I might pull that a bit tighter. It's a bit loose actually. Oh, it's flopping around. And of course, very important that we keep it as straight as possible too, remember? And how important that is. Keep that nice and straight along there. You don't want that looking too out of whack, okay? So there we go. That'll protect the edge here, okay, when we start with our application. So let's get some water happening. Really simple. Fill the whole thing up, just like snow, little snowflakes. And once again, we're back to our back and forth motion, okay? Be very careful here, okay? Okay, back and forth motion like so. You don't need a lot, really you do not. You do not need a lot. You don't need to touch that much at all. That'll do us, in fact. Maybe this corner, okay? So there we have it. That's our water, believe it or not. You can see how quick and easy that was. Once again, you can see where I ruined the job. I've obviously got a bit of spit on there. Okay, not a problem. What I can do there is get my rubber, rub that filthy thing out there, and just run my finger over it, and it'll be, oh, still there. Must be some kind of junk on the board itself. But never mind, it must have been a bit of a mark I put on the board. Okay, so there we go. Now what I would do though, is that I would get my heavier one, and just put a line just at the back of that horizon on the template itself. Now be careful when you write. Be careful when you rub back into the mountain there. You don't want to rub in over the mountain or you'll get a line across your mountain. So when you go to rub in a little bit of a horizon line there, you just want a bit of a definition between the water and the sky. So don't go too far that way. So what we're trying to do, of course, is create, as you can see there, we need a definition between, you can lift it up now if you like. Have a look at how that came out, guys. So there we go. We can see that come up quite good. See, we truly do need that line through there, don't you agree? There's a few more little tricks to show you there before we finish. Okay, so now with our foreground, as you know, we've used our male template to create this section in the front. Now this is the very last stage, guys. Yeah, give yourselves a big hand. We're coming up to the last stage. And they're going to do that rocky formation in the very foreground. Female template, okay? This was the one that we covered up to get that section there. Now we need the other side of it, of course, because we need to cover up the other side, okay? So once again, lining it up with the lines and giving yourself a little bit of a lip of the stuff underneath so that we don't get that line in between. If you want to know what I'm talking about, let me give you a little demonstration. If you don't have that close enough to the edge, what you will get is, I'll show you now. Let me just do a little bit of that. What you will get, this is an exaggeration of course, is this kind of thing happening, right? Which is a line between the two areas. We don't want that, okay? Oh, there may be times when we will, but in this case, we want to go back, just overlap a tiny bit and pull back a little bit so that you're definitely covering that area, okay? Letting the water come through a little bit onto the rock surface. Now, you can probably use the dark one again for this one because it's a kind of a rock surface, rock surface, rocky surface. Let's get that happening. Okay. I like to go in nice and heavy for my last application, my very, very foreground. Just like with a camera where your foreground is fairly detailed and your background starts to kind of fade, you can kind of get that kind of look going if you like. You can see that I've completely covered that up all the way through. Right? Okay, once again, I want a bit of definition on the edge, so I'm going to give that a good bit of just on the edge. Hold on to your template, just run it in. Now, it doesn't matter if it goes in messy because we're planning to really lay this on thick through here, right? So, you know, put a bit of lead on there. This time we're on the actual job itself. Before, we were kind of putting our stuff on the template, but now we're actually going in onto the job. Because when we get our fingers into that, we want that to really, really show us a great definition on that front piece. Okay, we want some solid definition there, some solid contrast. All right, so let's get that really, really cooking, right? Now, when you lift up your template, you will see just how much more increased that highlight is. You can see that. It's quite solid on the edge there, right? Because that's your very foreground. You want that to really, really see the difference? See the difference in the definition? Like, really solid. That's what you want. Really solid, sharp definition and contrast in the very foreground. Okay? And once again, you can use your little techniques with your bits and pieces to give it a bit of character. You know, you might want to run one down here like that. Once again, I would also get in pretty heavy. I'd actually draw onto the job itself. Okay? And then, you know, give it a good scrubbing there. So there you go. You can see that's quite detailed. Okay, might want to put another one back here somewhere. You know, put one in there. You can even put a little bit of extra stuff out on the line itself. Give it some real contrast. Okay, some real stuff going in there. Okay, you can see there. Okay, you might want to have a couple coming back the other way, so it's not all looking too. You've got to watch out for that uniform look. We don't want to make it look like we're repeating a pattern. That's why I like to use different parts all the time, all right, guys? Because we want it to look natural. We don't want to make it look like it's been repeated in any place or degree. Okay, maybe put one through here, maybe. I'm thinking maybe we'll do that. For the foreground. Now you could do lots of detail. If you really want lots and lots of things on there, go for it. If you're enjoying yourself, the more detail the better. Okay, if you want to get really fine details in there, go for it. Have some fun. Knock yourself out. Okay. Okay, so there we go. Okay, guys, sorry, there's one little thing I forgot to mention. We need to create a kind of a reflection from the moon or sun on the water. This is one I did earlier. You can see the reflection there. Oh, it's hard to get the light right. But you can see a little bit of, now that's created with a rubber. So if you take your rubber and you've got your moon or sun on the back there. I've already started this one, as you can see. So just get the very sharp edge of your rubber and at the back, just make it small. As you come towards the front, this is going to get wider as the reflection starts to get wider in the front there. So just to create the illusion that the sun is flickering on the water, that just kind of gives it that fun little touch as you can see there. Sorry about that. So guys, yeah, so once you've done everything, it's time to strip everything back. The fun part. So just lift up the whole border that you've done right around the outside there. Be very careful not to rip it. If you can avoid ripping it, that'd be great. Take your time ripping it back, and you'll have your finished product. And there we have it, guys. Look at that. Cool, huh? You guys did that. You should feel proud. Now here's the final stage. Here's what I like to do right at the end. Take your ruler, put it right on the edge, and come in a little bit. Okay, come in a little tiny bit, you know, so come in a little tiny bit there. Because now you want to get a nice smooth finish on the edge there. Nice, sorry, it's not sharp finish, I should say. No, any extra stuff, just rub out. Probably cut that off later anyway, so don't really need to worry too much about that section right down the bottom. But really get that stuff away from the edge of the edge there. Yeah. Really rub it all back nicely. To each corner, like I said, give yourself a little bit of extra there so that you can get it nice and trim. Running rubber right along the edge of the ruler. So you get a nice, lovely finish. Okay? All the way around. Make sure you've got a nice sharp edge of your rubber there working for you. Okay, so that's like before. As you can see, it's a bit of burring, a bit of scarring there. Get that on there. And give it a really good scrubbing back. Like so, right to the edge of your frame. And there we have it, guys. A completed project. You've done it. Now there's a stuff that you need to buy. I've got an empty tin of it somewhere here. It's called Fixer, all right? And what you do is when you're finished, you spray it with Fixer. Go to any art supply shop like Eckersley's or something like that and ask them for a tin of Fixer. Okay? Very important. Okay, so that's a workable fixture. There's one there that I buy from them. That's a really good one, actually. Now, basically what it is, it's like a hair lacquer. I don't have much left in this tin. I don't think there's any, but you spray it over the whole complete job after you're finished. It's very handy, especially with charcoal, because charcoal is very loose. And what it basically does is it fixes the charcoal or the lead to the paste, so you don't get, see this here, that's not smudging anymore. I had a little bit in the tin. So it actually ties everything together, pulls it together so it doesn't, become smudged anymore. Now that would look really lovely in a frame, guys. Cut it to size here. Cut a nice mount if you want, like a cardboard mount. I find black is a very good for a mount, which you can see here. You know what I mean by a mount. Cut a square mount, and then have that put into a frame. Look really nice. Stick it up on the wall. I mean, that's So that's a substantial piece of artwork you've done there, all right? So this is basically an introduction to what you can do after with airbrushing. So here's just a couple of examples of some guitars I airbrush. You can see the kind of detail I've used in my mountains there quite a bit. This is not a very good picture. It's a photocopy. But there's one there with a girl in the front, and you can see the landscape in the background. So there's lots of things you can do once you really get swinging into it. Now you can create your own backgrounds, create your own landscapes. Very easy. Guys, it was great being with you here today, and I've really enjoyed our session. So go ahead and have a go and do more. Thank you.